Hello, everybody. I'm John,
Hey y'all, Arcade Rob here hanging out with you on a Monday.
and we have our very special guest, Miss Yak Girl. Some people
Jen
call her
Nolan.
Jen Nolan.
Yeah, we're excited to
Jen,
be here. This is
Jen,
gonna be fun.
Jen on the
Yeah.
road, Nolan again. That's what I'll say.
Yep.
Stay on the road.
I don't think we've ever caught her when she was at home.
I don't think so.
I don't either. I don't even
'Cause
know
I
what that
think
is anymore.
She's got her mobile
exactly.
office. She got her mobile office. We can
I
catch her
do.
in the mobile
When I'm
office.
telling you what, look, this is my bathroom area, my toiletries.
Yep.
Got my fishing bag and my rod because I really can't be traveling on the road without that because that don't make no sense. And then I've got my closet over here on this side, and then I've got my kids fish tube, uh, accessories for the things for the educational clinics on that. We're ready to go, man.
Awesome.
So last time Jen was on, we talked about doing a story time
Yep.
where we would talk about experiences and things like that. And Rob and I got together afterwards, and we both thought it was a great idea.
Yep.
So uh, since we since Jen came up with the idea, we figured it'd be prudent to let her have the first episode of story time.
Absolutely.
So,
Well,
Jen,
the cool thing about that is God does what he does. And when we were doing all the story time talking, I already knew which stories because there's great fish stories and we've all got great fish stories, but there's a unique situation where you have a story that no one else has.
Yep.
This did not ever happen to anyone. And those are the best stories for storytelling. I've been in that side of the world for my whole life, coming from the journalism and photography background. So creating a story, whether it be with one image or with words, is kind of my thing. And you guys know I like to talk a lot, right? So it's just a beautiful thing. So I already knew, a couple
yeah,
of these stories that were things that happened on the water during the tournament. Both of them are, but certainly things that I feel like probably only happened to me. And then I've got some other really great stories to share of, that last bite, you get 1 minute left, one cast left, those kinds of things. Those are always great stories too. But when I was getting ready for that, knowing what one of these stories were, I would have never thought what happened this past weekend would have happened to make because it was just going to be me telling the story. And now I'm like, man, I've got story time hour, and who better to bring on than to bring a special guest on with me with who was the driver of the boat when the story happened, right? So I have a co-angler story, which is fantastic for the co-anglers corner.
yeah.
And it was a few years back. And he should be in the studio in just a minute, John. Me and Rob
Okay.
talked about this already, and I wanted to kind of surprise you too, because considering what happened this past weekend and how much you love to get the first stories. The boater that I had in that BFL 3 years ago when this incident happened was Chad Marlar. And if you've been watching,
Yep.
Mr. Marlar went ahead and did a little something more than the average fisherman would do. And he took that big win this past weekend, and I'm so proud for him. And on that day that we fished together, there's actually some cool stories, and I'm hoping that he kind of shares some of that too. But I'm excited to share this story of what happened to me on the water, which is a great story. And Chad being the boater for that day, and then of course, a great opportunity for us to hear how he went from there to here. That's going to be another great story. So we're going to turn this one story into three really awesome ones.
Hey, that's all right. I mean, that
Awesome.
to me, that's what fishing's about.
Man,
Meeting
for sure.
people, meeting people, getting to know friends. Making friends. I mean, anybody can go out there and catch a fish.
Yep.
Maybe not as good as everybody, but
Yeah.
the odds are in your favor that one of these days you will hook a fish.
You do it long enough, you're going to catch one.
Yep. But it's the people in the relationships are what I do it for.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
And trust me, it's not the money.
No.
No, it's not. And Chad mentioned that I think in just a post he made yesterday, maybe today. When I'm also a veteran, and one of the things that I realized when I first got into the tournament series with the kayak world and getting with the kayak outreach group, so there was a veterans group I went and did an outreach, and I was like, this is what I've been missing, because when you're in the military, you're all each other's God. And when you that's your first experience in life, and then you don't have that anymore, and it kind of feels like everyone's against you, where you finally had some space where everybody had your back, and then you don't anymore. But the fishing industry is much like that. So many of us definitely have each other's back, and Chad's an incredible angler. I'm super proud for him, and like I said, he should be in the back there, John. I don't know if you see him in there yet.
Do you have his picture in there? Okay, because I don't have his picture.
There he is. Hey, how's it going, Chad? You hear us?
Hello?
No, he might have a bad connection.
You might have Is his mic muted, maybe?
It's not showing it here that it's muted.
No.
Can you hear us, Chad?
There he is. Hey, Chad.
Hey.
Okay. I think he's having mic difficulties.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can read his lips.
You're better than me.
He said he can hear us, but we can't hear him. I believe that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
We can't hear you, Chad. You look lovely. The lighting is great. I don't know if your audio, maybe you have to give audio permission or something. I don't know.
No, it's good on our end. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, y'all can hear Chad?
No.
Now, Rob, that was our chance saying, yeah, like you can't.
Yeah, I hear you. But hey, Chad, great job over the weekend, man. Way to bring it home, man. You had some big dogs on your heels, man. Congrats.
All right, can you all hear me now?
Yeah, I got you. Now we got you.
In the world of social media and all this stuff, when you go into one application, it's like, hey, what's this mic? What are you using here? What are you using there? So I had to select the mic for y'all's chat. So, hey, I want to say thank you all so much for having me on. To be honest with you all have the first shot at doing an interview with me. I've got a lot scheduled. And when Jen reached out to me, actually, she got to me first. And I was like, you know what, I'd be honored to come aboard, because Jen and I had an awesome meeting several years ago at and I think it was a Toyota Series event, Jen, wasn't it?
I believe it was a BFL on Rayburn.
Okay, BFL.
Or Toledo. It was either Rayburn or Toledo, and it was a BFL. And I was still scared to death when we weren't on the trolling motor.
Yeah. So, I met Jen, I know, Co-Angler's Corner. I met Jen at that. It was a BFL event. I was fishing the Toyotas and the BFLs that year. Yeah. And Jen that was the very first time she was like, hey, I hadn't been in a boat since she told me the story. She had a really bad experience on Toledo Bend with another angler that was just sending it. And I said, listen, you're in good hands. We're not going to be just sending it. Even though there were 3+ footers out there on Rayburn, we realistically shouldn't have gone that day, but I'm not the tournament director. I don't make those calls. So, I told Jen, I said, hey, we're going to make a long run. But by the time we got halfway up the lake, I said, we go and make a short run. And everybody couldn't make that run that day. So, that's how Jen and I crossed paths. And I've kept up watching her and, keeping up with what she does. Obviously, you all know she's very active in giving back to the community. She's very active in the kayak world. And, I've been following her and I can see she's doing her own thing as a boater now. And I'm super proud of her. Like I told her a long time ago, we had this conversation in my boat. I said, when are you going to make the boat to it? When are you going to make the jump to a boater? When are you going to do this, Jen? You should be confident. You should own what you're doing, because a lot of times, co-anglers, they're becoming a very rare thing in these days now with all the changes that we've got. But I said, you have the knowledge to go do it. You just need to be confident in yourself and go do it. Because at the end of the day, in the years I've been doing this now, co-angling has changed dramatically in these events. And what do I mean by that? In the day, co-anglers used to sign up to go with the boaters, the pro side, however you want to use that terminology these days. But it was to go with the boaters to see how to approach a tournament, 2, how to practice. And it was about gaining knowledge, small baby steps.
Yes.
Now in the world of fishing, I mean, everybody's got a boat these days. Who doesn't have a boat or a kayak or something these days? So, man, hats off to you, Jen. I haven't got to see you in a long
Yeah.
time, and I see you're in your car right now. I just got back from my car. So
Chad, a little
I
bit
am
about
en
that.
route to get some new kayaks.
There you go.
I think this is Jen's 4th or 5th time on our show, and she's
Yeah.
always been on the road.
Yep.
Yeah. I stay running. You know, I changed my title on my TikTok to chasing something, because sometimes I'm chasing a kayak, sometimes I'm chasing a kid, sometimes I'm chasing a tournament, sometimes I'm chasing, you know, $1. You know, I'm always chasing something.
I understand that completely. And, you know, my wife is my backbone here at home. You know, realistically at home, a lot of people don't realize, I tell kids this a lot, you know, just because I fish professionally, it doesn't mean I'm rich. I have bills. I have a boat payment,
Right.
you know, and I have all of those things. And I'm blessed to have the wonderful local sponsors that are with me. And you have to budget and be smart. And like you see Jen in her car, there's been plenty of times I have eaten ramen noodles for dinner. And I'm not talking about heat them up in bowl. I'm talking about old school Army style, pop them out of the package, eat them, and I go on about business, because that's what it takes sometimes to get to those levels. And, you know, I'm very blessed to have all the wonderful sponsors I have with me. And, you know, looking back on stuff, you know, when I met Jen, I was fishing and I was getting my guide services going. And I get a lot of the post interviews with the NPFL and stuff. They're like, average fisherman, hashtag Chad Mother. Why? Well, it's because I started out taking care of every God-loving American that works Monday through Friday, that doesn't fish or doesn't have the means to go fishing every day during the week, or doesn't have the ability to get out there and spend as much time on the water. And it's my job to go out there and give them the best trip possible, the most conducive trip possible, because I want to see pictures from my customers when they go out and they hang a Gina out there, because I get a lot of pictures from customers. I'm just not going to post them because I'm not arrogant. And I'm going to tell you, that's where the joy comes in right there for me. That's where I find a lot of, you know, purpose, because I'm not going to lie. When I got out of the military in 2018, my wife's like, you know, I was a teacher for a while, and I got back into fishing. And I know my wife was mad at me. I was gone a lot again. And, you know, I just found really good purpose after I got out. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll sit here and tell you right now, as a veteran, I was struggling. It was a whole different world for me when I got out. People don't look at stuff the same. I'm not special, but I also have the mentality of like, hey, I'm just standing here. If we're not going to do any work, like, I'm going to go to the house. You know what I mean? Like, let's do something. So I had a hard time fitting in to the civilian world again. I really, really did. And I struggled. And when I started teaching, I found purpose again, and I found happiness. And then when I started guiding full time, I mean, like, I took a leap of faith back in I've been guiding for almost 4 years now. So when I was a teacher, I started guiding on the side on the lake. And that's how I run into Jen. You know, I was doing that stuff, and I didn't have the means to jump to it full time professionally, because I've got wife, I've got kids, I have bills, and it was scary. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I mean, I was sitting there thinking like, hey, how many trips do I need a month to pay my bills? And, you know, it seemed like the good Lord was pushing me in a direction. And it was like at a point to where I sat down, I talked to my wife one night. I said, if I do this and I don't make it the first year, is it okay for me to do this? And she said, you know what? I've watched you go after things like in the military. I watched you go to all these schools. I watched you go to these selections. I seen you do this. She's like, you think I'm going to tell you no now? And if it wasn't for my wife, I'm not going to lie to you, I wouldn't have the ability to do this, because when I am gone, going back to the backbone thing, she handles my bookings when I go to the next joint. She's already got me stuff booked for St. Lawrence. I'm getting ready to head out to New York before the 4th of July already. And she takes care of all of my business while I'm gone. I come home, I refit, get reset on guided trips. And, you know, we help each other out, because a marriage, as we all know, it's give and take. You know, I come in and my wife's teaching, and she's got cheer and stuff she's doing with my daughter. And I get off the lake, and sometimes I look terrible, and I go to my daughter's cheer stuff, and then take, my daughter and go home, make dinner. So we trade. So it's balance where I'm going with this, and watching Jen sit in that truck right now, I'm reflecting on stuff myself right now. Like I multitask very well. And I'm thinking about like, man, I know that feeling right now. And when you want to get home and get your own bed, yeah, I understand it. So, but hey, I can't thank you all enough for coming on here. What questions y'all got for me? I mean, this is your show. I'm not here to take over anything. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, you're good, man.
That was the first question. You answered the first question, and that was, how did you go from there to here? Because one of the stories that we tell outside of the big fish stories is how we got to here. And leading to the next question, that going from there to here, the advice you can give someone. And I've got the fun story that I have to tell, and we'll tell toward the end of this thing. Make people hold on, because you'll be all right. We're gonna make it through it. Yes, it's that kind of story. And just question: has it happened again since then?
No, it has not.
I didn't think so.
Not one time. No,
y'all want to hold tight for that story.
Yeah, that's type 3 for memories for me.
I remember specifically you had pre-fished really well for this event, and there were fish on each of the, I'm not going to give too much details. There was 4 or 5 particular areas in an area, and you were going back and forth, and they just would not eat, and you were getting really frustrated with yourself, and me with my wormy self. I was like, let's just go to the trees. And we did, and you wore them out.
Yeah. It's I think in the to answer the question, like, first and foremost, to touch on the first question, and the advice that I would give, and I get a lot of young high school anglers. I offer several different trips on the guide services. I do masterclass electronic trips where I get in your boat, I teach you how to use your equipment, and I do it just like I'm teaching you how I do it at the professional levels. Like, that's no BS. I teach you really how I do it. And I'm very genuine, and I don't hold anything back. And, second, the advice I would give, where I talk about, I take advanced electronic or advanced angling trips for high school kids, where, mom and dads that don't really necessarily know how to fish. They're like, hey, we want him to go with you and teach you. And I break it down for these kids. And then I do, fishing trips. But going where I'm going with this is the advice that I would give to anybody, man or woman, because there's a lot of women fishing these days. And I think it's awesome. I mean, it's diverse. I got Stephanie Hemphill that fishes with me on the MPFL circuit, and, what the advice I would give is, when you're starting out, start small. And what I mean by small is go out there every day that you can afford to go out and you can have time to go out, because spending time on the water is going to be your best friend. I mean, hands down, I could teach you the biggest secrets in the book, but time on the water equals success. And I would tell a lot of people these days where social media is good and bad. I'm not going to lie to you. We've all dealt with I guess the best professional way to put this, the maliciousness of social media these days.
We're feelings people. Yeah, especially us, because we're empathetic people. So we're very feeling people.
Yep. And, so what I mean by this is you need to get a social media page going. If you don't have a social media page going as a young angler or a man or woman, you're behind the game, because companies these days want the marketing and advertising. They want that approach. 15 years ago, it was different sponsorships, and sponsorships are tighter than ever because there's more people fishing than ever. There's people, I'm just going to say it. In my personal opinion and professional opinion, the fishing industry is so just plastered with sticks at every level that it is the most competitive in my opinion, that it has ever been. And you can look at that, whether you're at the Bassmaster Elite Series, the Opens, the not FLWs, but the Toyota Series. All of those are so competitive. So I would tell people, first and foremost, spend time on the water as much as you can. Start small. Fish club tournaments. When I got out of the military and I moved here and I was teaching for a while, I started fishing small club tournaments. I fished a club called Backlash Bass Club, and I still talk to those people in the club these days. And and then I started building confidence with more time on the water. When I started catching consistently 14, 15 pounds, then I was like, okay, now we're going to get into a BFL. And as that was going, I was continuing to build the social media. I was continuing to market and brand myself, because at the end of the day, we need longevity, right? As a business, you need longevity. And, when I started looking into guiding, I wanted to find a name that would, fit what my teachings were about. And that's why I chose Average Fisherman, because I tend to those people that every day they're out there getting after it. And that's the people that I love to take care of, because, yes, I get tournament anglers that I compete against, here on Rayburn, and people are like, is that awkward? I'm like, no, because I don't look at it like that. I look at it as John hired me to teach him, and John paid for a service. John's going to get that service. Whether I show up Saturday and he's sitting next to me in a tournament or not, John's going to get what he paid for at the end of the day. Now, I might not take you to the honey holes, but I'm going to teach you what you need to know to be successful. So time on the water is like, you cannot go without that. And then building yourself as a brand, whether that's, a name for yourself, like take the time out of the day to make the videos. And I mean this, I started off with 0 followers and I have almost 25,000 followers at this point. And it comes from consistency, posting every day when you don't want to post. I have not missed a post in like 5 years, until Friday night coming home from the NPFL. My thumb was melting in my center console. And honestly, I was very blessed because the NPFL made enough posts for me that I didn't need to post on my fishing page that night. So, consistency is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Consistency is something that you see a lot of anglers stop, because here's what I tell young kids. Do not procrastinate, because what you didn't do today, somebody did yesterday. And what you're not going to do tomorrow, what you're going to do tomorrow, what you're supposed to do today, somebody did, already, and they're doing something different tomorrow. So be consistent. And last but not least, learn how, and I'm going to say this very nicely, how to brush off the negativity that comes with putting yourself out there in the public spotlight. You have plenty of people that care about you and want to see you succeed. But there's an immense amount of people that you could go win the Powerball and all the Bassmaster Classic and all these places, and they'll still say something. But you know what? With that being said, you have to learn how to deal with that. It's a very real thing these days. And we all know that it can get to you if you don't watch it. But with that thing, learn when to put this thing down and spend time with family.
Yep.
That's the big thing. I'm on a time schedule all the time, every day. Yeah. I get home with guided trips. I sit down, I spend an hour and a half on social media, whether I'm updating content, answering questions, booking guided trips. And then after that, I get on there one more time to answer questions. And then at 7:00, she goes on Do Not Disturb, and I spend time with my family. And I tell you, that's really important. That's where you will have mental fortitude. You will find mental clarity when you step away for a while, and it's more important than ever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that's helping your wife get through that time when you aren't there too, when you give her that time when you are there. I know that as a wife, I'm the opposite. I mean, I'm out here because my husband's at home taking care of the kids. Sounds a little crazy, but he said he did it for 15 years and he had his turn, and it's my turn now, and I will take that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got to give a big shout out first and foremost to God and Jesus Christ, because what I'm doing right now, he has all the glory. They have all the glory. And I said that on stage at the NPFL, and we don't always know why things happen, and we get angry when things aren't going our way. I've been there. God knows I've been just angry, and I'm like, why is this happening? What is going on? But it is always for timing. And, they're like, they say God has perfect timing, and, I'm doing good to squeeze on my gut here to keep it together. But at the NPFL event, it's, when I caught that 8-pounder day too, I just sat down for a second and I told myself, I was like, I was like, I weighed it and I was like 7 something, whatever, you're flopping. We're not calling you today. You're going in the box, and we know you're not coming back out. So, we put Gina in the box, and, then I started realizing at that moment that there was an angler there before me. And I was very courteous. I was doing trying to be as courteous as I can, because at the professional levels, it is a little different than a typical local tournament. Like, guys are not running in front of you and cutting you off. There is an unwritten, spoken, professional, respectful rule. And I took off almost last on day 2, and there was this guy in the area, and I was like, oh man, he's sitting right where I want to be. And and you have to be comfortable with fishing behind people, because at these levels, guys are going to find them. Guys are going to figure it out. And I'm going to tell you what's so astonishing to me. We could all never talk, and we're all end up doing the same thing on live TV on first day. And you know what I mean? And it's wild, that to know that you can't stumble. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be on Luke Duncan's podcast coming up, the Low Budget Live here, either tomorrow. He said he's going to release on Thursday. And Luke did a really, he had a podcast out that come out today, on Spotify. And a lot of people at the NPFL, when this started, Brad and them put something together that, I got to give props to the NPFL. They had struggles the first couple of years. And I'm going to tell you personally why I picked them. I made the invitationals, a couple of years, and I had opportunities to go fish the opens, but it became part of a choice for me that I wanted to go be part of a family. I wanted to go be part of an organization that cared about their anglers. And I'm not saying anything bad about other organizations. I'm just saying that you feel the level of care and respect. I mean, it's Santee Cooper. Nobody heard of Chad Marlar. Nobody knew who Chad Marlar was at the NPFL. I was some, young, I'm about to be 39, so I don't feel young anymore. I mean, my CAT scans don't say so after jumping out of planes for so long. But, I was at Santee Cooper, and this staff was walking up to me day one, and they're like, hey, this, and this, Chad. And the amount of overwhelming support and care that the staff has for you. I mean, look, these guys were getting in my truck. I pull up to the ramp in the morning. I get my truck lined up. They get in my truck. They back me down, bump me off, go park my truck for me, put my keys up. Then they have a guard up there for security all day on the parking lot. And then when you come in, you just got to get your truck put on there, and then they drive you through the weigh-in. I mean, where are you going to go to get that type of service? So all I got to do is get up, and I get to go fish, while the NPFL staff, they got to get up. They got to rig all the stuff logistically, and they don't get to go have fun. They don't. So I have to give hats off to the NPFL for the way they treat their anglers. And we all know in the beginning, they had some financial issues when they first got going. But I'm going to tell you what separates them from the rest. Brad Fuller got on there and owned it. He owned it. Yeah. He said, hey, we are going to try. We are struggling. And we had to cancel the championship that one year when I was watching them. But you know what? It takes a certain kind of person to own something like that, and to come back and build an organization that I'm going to say is growing. The numbers they're putting up and the numbers we're getting views is astronomical. And what I wish they would do is turn and show you all the crowd that's at these events. I mean, you feel like you're at the Super Bowl. Like, it's impressive, so they really don't show the crowd because they're all about the anglers. But, I would say that looking at the NPFL as a whole, the anglers that we have there, going back to what I was saying with Luke Duncan, a lot of fans, it's not anglers, they're going on and saying that, hey, a lot of people are kind of upset. There's a lot of elite anglers coming over to the NPFL and fishing, but I'm going to tell you all this. It's called the National Professional Fishing League for a reason.
Yep.
And I'm here to tell you that every one of those guys in that league, you cannot stumble. If you trip one day, they're going to take you to the cleaners.
And that's a really good leading point into the last question I had about that day is having people at that level, like Gerald's, how did that feel? Did you think that your weight was going to bust his? First of all, did you think it was? And what was the feeling like to know that the average fisherman just put off one of the legends of the industry? How did that feel? I want to know how that felt. And if you knew, if you thought that was there, the weight was there or not.
So first and foremost, I tell everybody, us as anglers on the live, y'all watching, we put our stuff in Catch Tracker. We have no idea. Now you can do math and you can, I was really good at English and history and stuff, and I'm not terrible at math, but I do very good beer math. Okay, and so going in after like day one, because when you go to these 3-day events, they're 3-day events. You have to have fish for 3 days, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't care what anybody says. It's not easy finding fish for 3 days. You got conditions changing. You have other anglers that's going to be there with you. And, on day 3, you're going fishing a lot. Now, we had a cancellation day 1. It was bad storms. It was Oklahoma. I laughed. I drove through a nasty one going up, and the lake from the time we started practice come up over 2 foot. Over 2 foot. It was over 9 foot high on day 2. And, day 1, catching what I caught, I was like, hey, we're hanging right now. Like, we're looking good, like I was happy with 16-1. I had a 422 third cast of the day. And I was in a lot of areas like, G-Man was in this area and West Logan and Buddy Gross. And we were all sharing mutual water in a sense. Right. And I talked to Luke and Ken day 2, and they were like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm going to go up there where I was day 3 in practice. Like, wait a minute. You're going to abandon what you were doing day 1 where you caught 16-1, and you're going to go look at water that you hadn't seen since day 3 of practice. And I said, yeah, I am, because where I'm fishing is really pressured. Okay. Lake Eufaula is not like Rayburn where it restocks. It doesn't refill. And you got to remember there's 9 foot plus of water. These fish are spreading out by the minute. So I made the call to go up to where I was at day 2. And whenever I caught that 8-pounder, now I didn't have cell service. And I felt bad because Luke was telling me, we tried to get a camera boat up there with you, but I was in an area and I didn't have cell service. But I stuck it up, my cell phone way up in the air on tippy toes so I could get the 7-pounder in for my family and they could see it. And I went, and I'm going to tell you, after I caught the 7, I sat down and I was like, Chad, God's giving you a chance. You got to execute, buddy. He's giving you this chance. You have to grit your teeth and you have to get after it. And I drove straight across just like I did in practice. All right, I hit this stuff. Like, let's go across. I went across the way and I went to a point where I'd call it a good 3-pounder in practice. Now, I only poked in my area a little bit and had about 10 pounds in day 3 of practice. Now, a lot of people like 10 pounds, like 10 pounds in the conditions we were in. You heard a lot of anglers saying that was a lot of weight. And my first cast into this area, I caught a 323. And I sat down and I thought, we got a chance to dance for these bands. And I even told my camera that my Instant 360 I had on. I'm like, so I started fishing. I was doing the math. And I seen Brandon Cobb about 1:30 with the camera boat coming down. And I was reading the body language, and he was fishing frantic, and hey, coming from the Raybird, I'm here to tell you, you put 30 pounds on that scale and somebody come up, knock you out in a hurry. So like Texas anglers know really well, like you're never safe. So going to answer Jim's question about 1:30, 2:00, I was ready to go in, but I knew mentally I needed to stay in this and keep grinding for that bite. Cause realistically the bite was done at 10:00, 10:30. It was over. And you're grinding for the last X number of hours. I went ahead at about 3:00. I heard Brandon Cobb take off and I was like, it's time to go back. It was getting rough. And let me tell you something, the wake boats on Lake Eufaula are, them people got lots of wake boats and it was rough going back down the river, man. I mean, I skipped that bird across like a little rock, going over some of these waves. And I came in and I pulled that 8-pounder out and I showed my wife and my kids and stuff, and there were some kids down there that were watching the event and they were like, oh my gosh, and then I seen everybody sticking their head around the trailer, and I went to the weigh-in line and I put my fish, because we typically do a drive-through, which is absolutely phenomenal for sponsors. And we had to break down into a bag weigh-in. So I was sitting there at the tanks, had my bag dunked, and I was squatted down, like trying to recoup a little bit. And the cameras were coming over and they were all in my face. And, the cameras were getting in my face and everybody was, going on about stuff. And I kind of had this feeling then. I was like, man, what's going on? You know, like typically you can read the room. When you walk in a room, you
Yeah.
can read a room. And I got up there and honestly, you know, I didn't notice Gerald sitting in the hot seat. I was so focused on getting my bag to the scales to see what I had that after they weighed in, I kind of thought, you know, like they're gonna have to catch him. They're gonna have to work for this. Like I'm gonna have a chance. And honestly, I thought I was gonna end up in second. I mean, I was sitting in sixth place. I was like 3 pounds behind the leader, you know, and 3 pounds is a lot in the fishing world. It is a
Yeah.
lot. And I looked up on the hill. Now, when I was coming in, I seen Wes Logan putting it on the trailer. Now, Wes Logan was our day one leader. I seen him putting it on the trailer. So when I was sitting on that hot seat after I took, you know, like after Gerald stepped down, you know, I started doing the math. I was like, if Wes weighed in and he's not sitting here. And I seen Tommy Biffle, which is a legend in himself in Oklahoma. Let's be honest, you know, like Tommy, I was worried about Biffle. I was generally concerned about Tommy Biffle coming in and just old school Biffle head wobbling, just covering water, kicking my teeth in. But I seen him standing on the hill. And I asked the weighmaster, or actually, you know, Paul Benson, one of the MPFL staff, come up to me and he said, hey, you stay right there until Brandon Cobb weighs in. After Brandon Cobb weighs in, you can go do whatever you want. I'm like, what do you mean go do whatever I want? Like, I mean, I got to stay here, right? There's guys weighing in. So when I unseated Swindle, I could have easily been on the other side of that. And there was some people that, you know, had made comments about, you know, like Gerald didn't really want to talk to me, it seemed like, and he was pulling away from me. But I'm going to tell you what, I felt his pain on stage. And it didn't bother me. You know why? Because Gerald Swindle would go down. Honestly, he is a legend anyways. I just got to say this. We're not friends. I don't know Mr. Swindle that well, except for just here recently. Mr. Swindle has won 2 Angler of the Year titles with, you know, things. And if you look at his career, that guy would have probably the most wins ever if it wasn't for ounces. That's a real thing. So when he weighed in and I seen his reaction afterwards, you know, like, I mean, doing what he did, I'm sure he had no doubt he won, you know, and I mean, I would have too, but coming from, and he's done it longer than me. I'm just saying, coming from Texas and Sam Rayburn, I've seen this too many times and been a part of it. I mean, I dropped 26 pounds one time in an ABA top 150, and the guy behind me weighed in 31, and the guy behind him weighed in 34. I went first to third in a heartbeat, in a blink of an eye. So I like to tend to be, I am a lot more reserved because I know what could happen. But, you know, Gerald, you know, we had a quick chat on stage and I told him, I said, hey, it's an honor to be competing against you and you're a legend. And he looked at me and he said, well, I'm not a legend today, bud. You know, and I knew what he meant by that. And, you know, he a lot of people have to remember, he just came from 10 Killer. And those guys fished their hearts out at 10 Killer. And he had a great event at 10 Killer. And, you know, I know he was ready to get home, you know, and he was like, hey, I got beat. I'm ready to get out of here. I'm ready to go to the house now. So the feeling was not real yet, Jen. And then when I seen Brandon Cobb come weigh in, and that was about it. And then I started looking at my family's reaction, and I think they told my family that I had it because my family's expression changed with 2 anglers left. And John Branch, an Army team angler, you know, he come up and, you know, the camaraderie that you have with military personnel, being a veteran myself, like, if I ever seen John in the hot seat, you're going to see the same reaction from me. I don't care what I'm doing. Like, you know, you want that feeling for people. It's the same way if like I walk up there and see Jen on the hot seat, like you're going to get that reaction from me. And but the feeling, Jen, wasn't real. It wasn't real yet, you know, and I've been asked that question a lot. And here's how it was worded. How does it feel knocking off one of the best junk fishermen in legendary history? And I'm like, you know, it feels good. But you know what? It could have been me on the other side of that. And I know how that feels. So I was blessed and I'm thankful. And, you know, yes, I'm trying to soak it in, but you know what? It's short-lived. You know, fishing professionally is full of triumphs and challenges. And we're going to have a lot more challenges than triumphs. And, you know, looking at it, I am already focused on the St. Lawrence. Yes, I'm balancing everything right now. Like I have a guided trip tomorrow and the rest of the week through Monday. And then we're packing out to go to St. Lawrence. I mean, I have 2 events. I can win still, hopefully 2 more shields. No, I'm not taking for granted what I did. I'm looking ahead already. It's time to get back to work. And, I want that gold shield that says AOY on it. I mean, Ken Duke and Luke were like, like spitting stats to me. They're like, there really hasn't been very many. They said, we'll have to go get the stats for you, but you won a shield in your rookie season, bud. You qualified for the championship in your rookie year. Do you know what that means? And I'm like, I'm really dehydrated right now. And I understand what that means, but I'm ready to get back home to Texas, and enjoy it with my family. And, it really realistically now it's getting very busy now. The calls and balancing everything right now. And I'm just so blessed because I will tell you, I know who cares about me, and the overwhelming amount of support on my Facebook and people that have texted and called. Like, I didn't realize that many people watched me. I'm going to be honest with you. Little old Chad Marler from Jasper, Texas,
But you are that's the whole thing. Is it's like when Matt Robertson was coming up. You're what we all are, which tells us that we all could possibly have a chance.
Yep.
And that
every
is
day.
such a big thing. And even the way you're not using the word, I wanted to say it so bad while you're telling the words humble. You really humbly received that knockout, and that's good stuff, man. And that's why I love you. I spent enough time around you, with you, and following you to know that you take everything with your heart like that, and you always give back a lot too. You share a lot of information, and you are consistent with that in a world where there's not a lot of consistency. And I know we've actually kept you really a lot longer than I planned to tonight, and I'm excited that you came and talked with us so much. So will you tell us, like, before we tell our story of our very special story that we know has never happened before in a boat and will probably never happen again, will you tell us, did you catch it deep or shallow? And will you tell us what you caught it on?
So, I caught everything shallow. I mean, when you go to Oklahoma, you throw spinnerbaits. Everybody knows you go to Oklahoma. And, I caught my fish shallow. I was truthfully targeting bushes that you could no longer see, because you have to remember, in practice, we could see those
9
bushes.
feet. Yeah.
Yep. And it's like, people have to realize, and I teach this on trips, when the water goes up, yes, fish will go shallow. Your deep fish will pull up to a shallower portion, and your shallow fish that live shallow all year long, they will pull up, but they don't do it instantly. It takes a couple of days for them to move. And the water level had gone up, and then it dropped back down 1.5 feet, and then it was back 2 foot high on day 2 of our event, and which was day 3, it was the last day. I was targeting bushes that you could no longer see. And if you go and watch the MPFL live, you're going to hear Wes Logan, you're going to hear Jared Swindle, and those guys made those adjustments. And I was catching my better fish out of bushes that you couldn't see. I knew they were there. And I was rolling a Hildenaro blade spinnerbait. It is a veteran-owned company out of Arizona, a very small company that has been with me since the beginning. And I had specifically requested a spinnerbait be made for me. And I asked for it to be made for me for specifically Douglas Lake, because we were fishing very similar conditions at Douglas. And I'm still kind of got, like a red booty from Douglas, because I lost 3 fish on day 3. I should have had a check at day 3, and it's going to happen. That was just my day to lose them. Everybody's going to have those days. That was my day. And I had a number 5 Colorado blade gold on top with a 3.5 silver nickel. I just put it on my page this evening on my Facebook page, if anybody wants to look at it. And it was a 3/4 ounce short truce and white spinnerbait. And that 3/4 ounce, I like those heavier spinnerbaits because, Jason Christie, we all know that he is a spinnerbait animal. He throws a 1 ounce. I like the 3/4 ounce because I'm comfortable with it. That's what I like. I like to slow roll it, but the real reason that I had it specifically made that way was because I was working my spinnerbait just different. And what I mean by different is, you throw a bladed jig. It is so important to change your retrieves, change how you're messing with your bait, because so many people are in front of you, chunking and winding. I was working my spinnerbait really aggressive. I was using it like a jerk bait. I was making it dance. It was pulsing. I was really working that spinnerbait, and I was stopping it over top of the bushes that were underwater. And I was really 4x4 four-wheeling that spinnerbait through things that it shouldn't have been going through. I did not have a trailer hook because a trailer hook would have gotten me hung up more. And I abused that spinnerbait unlike any bait I've ever abused in cover, and it held true. And, Hildenauer Blades, big shout out to Michael Obney building that for me. Like I can be a very picky angler when it comes to baits, and that's a love relationship you have with sponsors. I'm real with my sponsors. If something sucks, I'm going to tell you it sucks because I don't want it to go on the market and I don't want somebody to get a bad product. It seems harsh, but that's the relationship I expect from my sponsors if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So we caught them shallow. We caught them from 2 foot to 7 foot, but the magic window was really 5 to 7. And I kept that spinnerbait in my hand all day. And I'm not a weenie, but you can see on my finger that is from casting. That is a blister that was awesomely developed on day 2 that I just finally popped.
That's a $100,000 blister.
Yep.
So what we'll do is we'll when we cut this up, we'll say 82nd Airborne complains about blisters.
You can say 82nd Airborne knows how to pop his blisters where they don't become a problem. That's the real thing,
Yeah,
but no, I know you are. And
we're teasing you, Chad.
Well, thank you for your service.
You as well.
Hey, were we all? Rob, did you serve too? Are we all veterans?
Yep.
Well, isn't this the coolest
Well, thank you all for your
podcast
service.
ever?
Isn't that a small world then? How that works?
It is.
I think that's why we're all together. We are all our own kind of crazy, and we love each other anyway. Which leads me to so Chad, I was going to tell the story 2 weeks, like before you ever did what you did 2 weeks ago. We were having conversations. Tonight was going to happen, and I had no plans to bring you on here, but I had full plans to shoot you a message and say, "Hey, I'm gonna tell that story. You might want to watch." Then you went and did something way cooler than the story and won the doggone NPFL. And let me get my 30 grand together, buddy. Because I'm gonna come work a worm.
Well, when you're ready, give me a call. We'll put a word in for you.
So Chad already shared his version of us being on the water together. So, and I did tell him, that I like to go about 5 miles an hour. So I was going to be white knuckled up there till we got to the trolling motor. And it was a rough day. It was a rough ride. And if you guys have ever seen me in real person, I'm larger on the top part of my body. And there's no reason to talk about it. It has nothing to do with fishing. But on this fishing trip, Chad was absolutely driving the boat wonderfully, but we were really just
it was bad. She's saying that there was no boat on the market, not even the awesome champion boats they built today that was going to handle what was going on Rayburn that day.
It was. She was mad. She was mad, and so halfway, and it wasn't a bit. We were going on a long run that ended up being short, but I just all of a sudden, I'm out of the seat and just boom, boom, and I start feeling a pain in my chest, and I'm like, what is that? Like something stabbing me. And I'm like, what is going on? And we get to slow down. We get to the trolling motor and I'm so uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm on this guy's boat. And I could tell, he is not prepared for what I'm about to have to tell him I got to deal with over here. So what had happened was all of that bouncing, my larger portion of my body bounced the threading till it pushed the metal underwire out of my bra.
Oh, wow.
So here's how this went. We get up there and it was the best ride we could do, right? Like everybody, you looked at everybody and everybody just started peeling off that day. I don't think anybody went past Veach. I'm honest, honest to God.
It was rough. It was rough.
I look down, I jump up, I run up there and I turn around. I'm like, "Hey, are you good, Jen? Everything cool? You need anything?" And I'm like, looking down, I'm like, "Jen." She's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Is that your underwire from your bra in the floor?" and the deck of the boat. And she goes, "Yes, sir, it is." And I said, "Do you want me to turn around so you can put that in?" She's like, "No, we're just going to roll with this." And I'm like, "Hey, let's do this." We went to fishing and I to this day, I still laugh because it is probably one of the top 3 things that I've ever had happen on the boat. And I'm just like, and she was like, "Yeah," she just owned it. She was like, "Yeah, that's my bra wire." I'm like, "Are you good?" She's like, "I'm great. I'm good." I'm like, "All right, let's send it then. Let's keep going." So It was hilarious, and it lives rent free in my mind for a long time.
Well, like I said, I don't think it will. One of those things that's probably never happened, and it will never happen again. And people say they have
Probably
those
not.
stories, and yeah, no, that's one.
Probably not. And it is. That's a story that will stay forever. I'm not gonna lie.
Now, Chad,
So,
did you
Rob,
do
John, have y'all
did
heard
you
that
do a
one?
double take or a triple take when you looked at wire? Like, what is that?
So you all know, being veterans, that you have a particular set of skills that unfortunately I don't know about you guys, but I analyze everything and I pay attention to a lot. So when I got to looking at it and I'm taking the shape of it and I'm processing, you know, there's no wire built like that in that boat. Okay. And I don't own tackle like that, you know, and I see her messing around. I'm like, is that your underwire? And she's like, uh-huh. And I was like, okay, I guess right then, you know. So it was, yeah, I was like, oh, okay, you know, like, I mean, I wasn't going to ask her if she needed help put it back in. I just assumed that she was going to take care of business, you know. So it was actually hilarious, you know, and it was cold that day too. Like, I'm not going to lie, it was chilly that day. There's no
It was a rough
doubt.
day.
So
It was a rough day.
Uh,
It was
Patriot
definitely fun.
Sounds like you should get a trophy for that one.
oh yeah, like
That's
hands down,
trooper.
yeah.
That's being a
If you guys
trooper.
ever see,
Yes, it was.
if you ever see my old green box, it's to the on my boat. I'll tag a picture just for humor later. So it's inside, like the little holders that you normally would put your pliers and things in. I've got it
Yes.
in one side and in the other, and it will be there for a lifetime because it definitely has something to do with my ability to feel like I can do anything.
Absolutely. And no, I did not hook a worm and catch it. Like, I didn't do that with that, you know. Now I could have made an Alabama rig out of it, you know, but that would have taken a little time in the boat.
So if anyone knows a bra company that's looking to sponsor an angler, because that's a tip of the day too, go for companies that are not fishing related. Give it my number.
I would say that is a definite market approach, to be honest with you. Something
Oh, yeah,
that
definitely.
is speedy but comfortable, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
And can
for
hold
sure.
hold the pressure, hold the ride.
That's right. It holds under
Right.
pressure, right?
I'm gonna think of some catchy phrases. We're gonna make something happen. Y'all know I'm always on the I am more than my bobbers, like, you know, so that we could get respected as women, but we gotta think of something catchier than that.
The old D cup A rig. That's what I call it too. You know, we call it the flash mob or something like that, you know.
It's the double D rig. We'll talk about it later.
That's what I would do. Yeah,
Angie
all
says,
the
"Look, all the way."
teasers you want on there, right? You have all the teasers you want.
I think we done embarrassed Rob over there.
No, I'm
I'd
good.
be all right.
I'm good. Y'all cracking
Yeah,
me
you-
up,
you
man. Y'all
really are.
cracking
I
me up.
told you I had a good story, guys. I
did.
did not lie.
You did.
You know, if
Well,
you'd have
Chad,
let off
before go
if
ahead.
you'd have let off that story, we'd still be laughing at it.
Yeah, I
Yep,
know.
good.
I needed to stay for the end. Chad, before we let you go, and I have one more story, guys. So Chad, when you get off here, log back in because I'm going to share a real magical moment in my first Toyota series this year. January, about 28 degrees, and I had an incident that led me to find out that real magic is not that kind of lubricant. So definitely stay on for the end of this. And Rob, I think I told you guys this off camera, so you know what's coming. But
Yep.
everybody's gonna love it. But Chad, shout out your sponsors. Give a little love to your peoples before we let you go. We're so grateful for your time. We're so proud of you. And if you didn't know, you can come see me at the Academy in Lufkin on the evening shift. I'll be there.
I appreciate that. And hey, I'm very honored for you all coming out. Jen, thank you so much for welcoming me on the show. You guys, Rob and John, thank you guys. And, thank you. Jackson Hill being my title sponsor, when the new owner, Sarahville, took it over, you all know these days it's harder than ever to find sponsors. It truly is. And, a lot of that has to do with the way the industry is right now. But Jackson Hill, taking that risk. It's always a risk with every company, and I've developed such a wonderful relationship with local companies around here. So Jackson Hill, my title sponsor, thank you so much for investing in me and caring about what I do. And Weaver Brothers here in Jasper, Texas, if you guys are looking for a vehicle, you go ask for Neil Pike or Glenn or any of them in there, and you tell them I sent you. And if you don't walk out with a deal, you call me. They will take care of you. And Creel Steel, Southeast Texas, Ricky Pike is just an awesome guy. He sponsors two elite anglers too, Caleb Summerall and Bo Browning on there. So we have a great relationship with fishing. Fowler and Fowler Concrete. He's been with me, since after my first year, and Thomas does some, like, I used to do construction before, and he does some magical work with concrete. Like, it's impressive. I get to spend time with him on the job. So Dale's Water Wells, you guys need a well drilled, Dale's got you. I'm telling you, this is like, what is that movie back in the day, Armageddon? Like, if Dale can hit it well, he's going to hit it, I promise. Then Solar Bat sunglasses, those guys have great products. I love their products, and I'm still wearing the same pair of sunglasses I had from last year, and I've got 4 more pairs over there. I just can't seem to bring myself to get a new pair right now. But and then big shout out to Stick 5 Rods. I love their rods, made here in America. Live Fishing, love Live Fishing's gear. Matt and those guys are so innovative, and I can't talk about it right now, but the stuff they have coming is absolutely unreal. And, Zavala RV and Boat Storage here in town. If you need a place to store your boat, give them a shout. Great family-owned company. Hildenaro Blades brought home that trophy for me, that spinnerbait, and I'm so grateful for him to, do what he did for me. And, you get asked a lot about your sponsors, and it's not that you don't forget it. You don't forget any of them, but when you're on the moment, you're trying not to leave anybody out at all. So I'm very grateful for everybody that's been with me. And, I'm just thankful for everything that, and Twisted L, like Twisted L Ranch. If you guys are looking for a hunt, get with Herb Lutz, Twisted L. Like, they will take care of you. Axis, whitetail. He's got some serious whitetail. I come from Missouri, peeps, and the whitetail that walk around on that, I drool at, coming from Missouri. So there's some big whitetail on that ranch. So guys, like, thank you so much for the time and letting me be on here, and thanking my sponsors, because we all know without our sponsors, I just wouldn't be dancing right now. That is not a joke.
How can people get to you to fish with you? You didn't tell us about how to get to you, and I knew you wouldn't, because you're so doggone humble.
No, I'm not going to bring it up.
How do we get to you? How do we? How can we book you?
So I appreciate that. So you guys can reach out to me on my Facebook, Average Fisherman, #Chad Marler. My phone number is directly on there. You can message me on Facebook. You could do Instagram. You can find me on Google if you type in. I pride myself on trying to be in the first pick that comes up when Google gets typed in. So you can find me on all those. And if you want to take a guided trip, hey, I'm here to take you out. Right now, I have to tell you, my very next openings are not till the end of July, and I'm into August right now. So I'm very blessed, very blessed. I stay booked, and I'm very blessed. I cannot stress that enough. It is a grind guiding. It is for real a grind. So I would love to get to take it out there. I do advanced electronic trips. We do advanced, my master class electronics. We do advanced angling trips, and we do fishing trips. And I promise you, when we're out there, we're going to have fun. Because you know what? I could talk at you and do PowerPoint by death, but you know what? I'm going to joke around. And if you ever take a trip with me, you better be ready for me to ask you questions at the end of our trip, because you better be listening. A lot of people get caught off guard. I'm like, well, what did I say these fish are doing? It's like, because I care about your success. So guys, check me out on Facebook. Jen, John, Rob, thank you so much for taking the time and investing in me and allowing me to be on here. Thank you.
Hey, salute to you, sir.
Enjoy
Appreciate
your
you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Hey,
congrats on the win again.
Yes,
All right.
thank you. Be safe
Yeah.
at home, Jen.
I'll see you up to St. Lawrence.
All right.
All right.
Wow, what a great guy, man. Great guy.
John, was that a good surprise for you?
Yeah.
I knew it would be.
Just having you, I mean, you know how, you and I have gotten to know each other a little bit personally.
Yeah.
Because of this podcast. Rob, if it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't even know each other.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I consider you two family. Okay. I've shared with you some secrets that not a lot of people know. And, when Chad was talking, I could relate to a lot of the things he was saying.
Oh, yeah.
But the one thing that I wanted to say to him, was thanking him for being a paratrooper.
Yep.
Because I flew in helicopters, and I'll be damned to jump out of one if it's going to land.
Chad's good people. I'm blessed to know him. I was blessed to be on his boat when I was. We certainly share a unique story that'll never be with another.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Well, and I really, I love the fact that I always pride myself to say, we're all anglers. It has nothing to do with, being a woman or not, but there are certainly circumstances that happen on the water that are only going to happen to a woman. That was one of them.
Yep.
And this is another one. So, and if you're a woman and you're listening, and I know I share this and you guys do a lot of ladies, so I do believe that there's going to be a lot of women watching right now.
Oh, yeah.
So it is actually as funny as it is, this could have been a lot worse than it was. There could have been some chemical burns involved. It could have been really bad. But do not, if you use Real Magic, because it's in the can, it rusts easy. We all know, right? If you have Real Magic, it rusts super easy. So I always keep my can of Real Magic in the dry bag.
Yep.
Right. And I just turned 50. And so one of the things that we deal with, I'm still dealing with those things that women deal with on a regular basis, and I'm going through menopause, so it's a little bit more extreme than normal. And so whenever I do have a tournament where I was co-angling, there was always the awkward, uncomfortable. Oh my God, okay, how we're going to deal with this? Because in the women's tour and in the East Texas Lady Anglers and WBT, everybody's a woman. It's no big deal. If I've got a 21-year-old running the boat, he's going to be traumatized for life. I got to deal with this on the water. It's 8 hours. We got to deal with it. So I had already made up my mind. It was my first Toyota. And I was like, man, my boat broke. I broke down at Danny's. I'm sure you guys remember that. My boat broke down and my truck broke down. I had to leave everything at Danny's. I ended up going from being a boater to a co-angler because I was waitlisted already as the boaters because I didn't have enough co-anglers. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just meant to be a co-angler. We'll just do this way. Yeah. So I get there and I pull a young boater and I'm like, oh Lord, it's cold outside. I got 3 layers of clothes, got Paul's coveralls over my rain gear and got, 2 layers under that. So I figured, well, I'm going to bring a whole bunch of my women's products, and I just stacked them in my dry bag. And I was like, I'll just, very casually, because I could just unzip everything down low and just, because it's 28 degrees outside too. I was like, I'll just layer them up and deal with hygiene later. And then that way it doesn't got to be too awkward. And that's what I was going to do for the day. So about 9 a.m. it had warmed up to maybe 31. And I'm like, man, and I got to go pee. Right, maybe. So I'm like, okay, so I got to deal with this. So I'm just like, I said, hey, buddy, I said, I know you're he was scoping too at the time. And I said, if you'll stay facing that way, I got to deal with some lady stuff back here. And he's like, okay, that was it. So I quickly, my little plan I had worked, I start fishing. And all of a sudden, if you've ever had crawfish and forgot to wash your hands when you went to the bathroom, you know what kind of burn I'm talking about. Well, I started feeling a very burny sensation that was making my eyes water. I was about to cry. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, I must have had something on my hand. It must something. The plan didn't work. So I was like, hey, bud, if you could just turn back around and deal with. So I grab another one. I'm like, I must have something on my hand. I figure I'll put a fresh one on there. Well, now it's burning like 15 times worse. And I'm like, I've got to get my pants down and get whatever's on my skin off of it, because I literally was like, tears were just streaming down the sides of my face. I was trying to not cry out loud, and it's funny now, but it was not funny then. And so I figure, okay, I said, buddy, it's going to take me a minute. And he's like, okay, all right, it's fine. So I got myself to where I got, again, 31 degrees outside. I got all my britches and everything unzipped down. I had my suspenders from my rain gear holding up all of my other clothes so I didn't drop them in the water. And I'm holding them in front of me. And I'm done laid down. So on that little step off the back of the boat, I've got my back on that. I got my feet on the motor prop, and I'm switching my butt in the water, trying to get whatever's on me off of me. And I still hadn't figured out what the hell was happening. And I'm in pain. It's just not good. And I can't say nothing because I'm like, this little boy's going to die. I don't even know what to say. So I grabbed I'm like, something had to got in the bag. And I got in there and I looked, and when I looked in the bag, the lid of the Real Magic was off. So I guess when I put it in his dry box and closed it, that whole ride had depressed and all of the pads had absorbed up all of the Real Magic. Yeah, so that's what was going on. And the jokes that came after that, Darren Wright's a good friend of mine, and I called him and I was like, hey, I said, I've got some really funny stuff to tell you about what happened to me in the water. And I got his wife on the phone. I got my husband on the phone. They were taking me to meet Danny because Danny had shuttled me to the tournament because of my vehicle. And everybody's just dying laughing at the whole damn situation. I was like, yeah, I'm going to title this article, I had a real magical experience. And then
not so magic.
It's not that kind of lubricant. And so...
And it was cold. It was cold on top of that.
It was so cold. It was so cold.
Hey, you know they work because they absorbed everything.
So shout out to Always. I mean, they did their job. Maybe I can get an Always sponsorship.
There you go.
I was before we came on. I was looking at different Facebook videos and stuff. And funny you bring that up. I was going to use it as a tip for tomorrow's show, but I won't. The lady says what she does with her husband is she takes a Always pad, puts it on the inside of his hat to absorb the sweat.
Wow.
I'm sure it works. And also, guys, if you didn't know, they are sanitary. So if you get a cut or something and you need extra absorb, they will work for that. So tip there. So
Tricia, I'll agree with you on that, Tricia.
Yeah. I used to carry a couple of them in my flight bag in case something happened.
Yep.
Well, can I give a plug for Fish? Can I give a plug for Fish Her right now? So no one has asked me, so what did I do? So I still had to go all day, right? I couldn't use any of the pads. Fish Her had just sent me a new fish bag, and they sent me a microfiber towel. So I concocted a little absorbent padding there, and it worked for the whole day. Didn't get a mess. It was wonderful. So in a pinch, the Fish Her microfiber towel will double as protection until you can get it's the real deal.
Yep.
And you know what, Jen? We love you, but I do have to agree with Tricia. You're a mess.
I am a mess. I am a mess of many magnitudes. But the situation was handled. God made sure I had what I needed for my problem for the day.
Hey,
and again, it was another. Right, and it's certainly another story that I believe has probably never happened and will never happen again.
Yep. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably right. But it only can happen to you. It only can happen to you too.
Only me. Oh, it's all. I'm telling you what. If some crazy crap is going to happen, it's going to happen to me.
Yeah. I just got one more. I just got one more question. Do you put your real bat magic in like a Ziploc now? Before you
I haven't even bought any. I'm afraid to buy anymore. And about a half a dozen old guys have gotten the chuckle of their life because they come in there looking for it at Academy, and I tell them, because I'm BSing on a Monday morning, I'm like, you guys want to hear a real funny story?
Guess what happened?
Guess what happened to me?
All right, well,
I should probably tell Real Magic that story. They'd probably appreciate that.
Probably would. What not to do with your product?
What not to do?
They'll probably put a warning label on it.
Yeah, probably. And when they do, they should give a portion to Jen, like every 10 cents on every bottle or something.
Just send it all to the MPFL to my 30,000 stacked up.
Oh my goodness.
What? I can't read.
What she's not telling you is the experience took all the memory out of her, and she has not squeaked since.
Oh, Tricia's got an even better one.
For external use only.
It actually probably says that on there already.
If it don't, it should. That's good, Tricia. I give you props. That's pretty good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Jen.
Well, I know we went over a little over an hour already, but what a great show, man.
Oh, great. Man, Chad was great. Man, what a great guy. Hats off to that.
Well, I was just like, I reached out to him straight away. I was so excited. And earlier that day, Danny Cross and I were talking, and he was like, "Did you see what Chad did?" I said, "Yeah, but did you see the bag Gerald brought in?" He goes, "Yeah, but they're saying Chad's gonna win it." And I'm like, "Really?" I was like, wow. Wouldn't that be just awesome? Because if you go back and look, he wasn't on their radar to come back and win that thing, and he was spot on. When it's your turn, it's your turn. And actually, yeah. G-Man's wife Lulu wrote that on one of his bags. And the truth is, that statement is true still, and Lulu was right.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because when it is your turn, it's going to be your turn. And I'm just so proud for Chad. And I was proud to see him do it in his rookie year. And I knew from that day when I was on the boat with him, and I said, just quit looking at that damn scope. Let's go flip up there in them trees. And he was like, let's go do that. And he sure did whack them. And I learned so much being on the boat with him, and just to see him win. And then I reached out straight away, congratulating him. And I was like, I would love the first interview. And so I knew we had story time coming up, and I was like, man, this is going to be just too perfect.
Perfect. Oh yeah, it did. That was perfect. That was perfect.
Jen, I don't know what else we could say, but thank you. You know,
You're welcome. I hope this is the
Sure.
most viewed podcast, because you know I'm going to do the Sherry thing. And
Oh yeah,
this
absolutely.
And
And,
you know, and I'm actually en route to Florida. You guys already knew that. You know, I backstage before we came on. You guys know I've been, you know, from Lufkin to Louisiana to Austin, and now I just coming into the Florida state line, and you know, Chad was so humble and so honest to share the real truth behind this. You know, these guys are not rich. Maybe, you know, a very small percent of these guys have everything funded for them. You know, they all still have the family back home. And if they don't have that strong foundation back home, then, you know, it is Men's Mental Health Month. And I'm so glad, you know, Chad touched a bit on those things. And
Yep.
if, you know, if we don't, all of us, men and women alike, if we don't get to have that time to heal ourselves, you know, then we just stay broken. And it's
Yep.
just such a beautiful thing. The fishing industry all the way around is a beautiful thing, and it can be such a great place for mental health healing. And Chad's one of those guys that you can tell anytime you're around him how much he loves and honors his wife and his children and his time with them. And it was just a blessing for him to come give us that time tonight. This is good stuff.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
anything else, guys?
And
No, that's
shout out to our friend at Tackle Shack, Anthony Lee. Hey, what's up, Anthony? Great, one of the great shops down in Texas. So.
Oh yeah, the greatest. There's
Yep.
not a better bass chain. Now can we call it a chain if there's two of them?
Yep, you can now.
All right. Yeah, we can. Because they're all things bass, and they're also all things community and all things family, and that's an incredible combination right there, man.
Absolutely.
I was
You're
at
right,
both
but
their
there
grand
wasn't
openings.
something.
I was at Anthony's grand opening last year and at Andrew's this year, and they're both amazing men, amazing family men,
They are.
amazing husbands, amazing fathers. And I know that because I've seen it, not on Facebook. Like, I've been to their stores in very peak tense moments and seen them parenting, husbanding, and working all at the same time. And they're just special dudes, man.
Couple of the hardest working guys you ever want to meet. I'll guarantee you.
Yes, and they're real, man. I love them. I'm super proud to get to take our education stuff and bring it to their organization.
Absolutely.
Before I forget, Jen,
Yeah.
I asked you about the Coltags. Shoot me
Yes,
your
I
address.
don't.
Yeah, shoot me your
Okay.
address and I'll give you a set.
Heck yeah! Well, I'll have them in time for grand.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you want pink?
Perfect. No, I don't. I love you though, but I do not want pink.
No,
Do
I got
do I strike you as a pink kind of girl?
not a chance. I do have a red. I do have a red, white, and blue.
Yes, give me that. Give me the red, white, and blue.
All right.
Yeah, those are nice.
And on that note, when we're getting off here, let's continue to pray for, you know, we're all veterans on here tonight, and I certainly don't want to leave off here and not remind ourselves for our freedoms. Sometimes we forget, and right now there's a lot of people probably in really tense situations about their freedoms and what's going on in the state of our country, although I think we might have reached some peace very swiftly, which would be beautiful. But I think praying for peace and praying for the people who don't understand and just praying for unity, it's good stuff, and we can remind people to do that right now.
Yeah,
Yes.
and pray for our young men and women in harm's way standing in line
Absolutely.
for us. Prayers up for you
Absolutely,
guys.
'cause as we all did on that day, they signed that knowing that's what they were going into.
Oh yeah.
I just want to say, add on to that, pray for their families as well.
Yeah.
Because the mental anguish they have to go through.
Yeah,
knowing
the
that
unknown
they
is
maybe
the
they
unknown is
may
difficult.
not see their spouse or father or whatever again, or mother. You know.
Yeah. A lot of sleepless nights on the families, no doubt.
For sure. For sure.
And Trisha wants to know what's wrong with pink.
I knew that's coming.
Me too.
I'm more of a teal kind of girl.
There you go.
No
Do you
teal.
have
I have blue.
Do you have yellow? I like yellow too.
Yeah, yellow's pretty nice. Oh,
Woo! I want that. Yes,
pops.
that matches my Viking. Yeah, that's Viking yellow. Yeah, send me that.
That
I'm
pops.
about that yellow life. And yeah, and I got tons of sponsors. Crossbait, love them. Take great care of me. I don't have tons of dollar sponsors, but companies and places that take care of me. Viking Kayaks
Yep.
New Zealand. we love Viking, and I'm proud to be the U.S. distributor. And Viking Kayak New Zealand has put a lot of faith and belief in me and my company and my family and my team down here of paddlers. And we're trying to, really bring our kayaks to the freshwater branding and Rain Shadow Batson Enterprises. They have been providing the components and rod building for my rods, and Billy has even custom built me some rods with my name on them, which is really cool stuff to have. And forever grateful for my relationship with those guys. We've been with them for almost 10 years now. Both Viking and Viking and our kayaks come with Railblaza ports, but our Viking and Batson relationship has been very long standing, and we're super proud of those guys, of what they've accomplished in the industry, and we're grateful to be a part of those guys. And kids fishing program, if you haven't checked that out, we are going to be next at the Grand Lake event. The Saturday before, we'll be at the Tulsa Academy. I'll come out and see some kids fish programming, and we do parking lot parties. We fish in the parking lot. It's pretty cool. Come check it out.
Nice.
Nice.
Awesome.
If you think about it, hide yourself in Chad's boat.
No, I'm gonna book Chad. I'm gonna book Chad after the super. I'm gonna book him after the super.
There you go.
Well, I just want to book him after the super, because if I book him before the super and then I go in there and whoop everybody's butt, they're gonna be like, well, it's because Chad got on your boat. I don't want to hear all that. So I'll book him after the super.
There you go. Awesome.
Hey, but you know what, Jen? They could have done it. They could have done it.
They could have. That's right. They could pay the money too. And I'm so proud of that dude.
Yep.
Yeah, same
Good
here.
dude.
Yeah, I can't wait.
All right, guys.
We'll have to get him back on. So
Definitely.
Absolutely.
yeah. All right. Well, Jen,
all right,
thank
guys.
you very much. Be safe.
Yep. See y'all soon.
All right. Always pleasure, Jen. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
All
Bye-bye.
right. See ya. All right. Well, I need some of her energy, especially on a Monday.
What's that saying? When a kid is all like, all excited,
Yep.
wired.
Yeah, there's never. I know what you're talking about.
Kids
yeah,
wired.
Yeah.
Old
Love her
man.
enthusiasm though about fish. Gotta love enthusiasm.
And you know what? It's not just the enthusiasm; it's the realness.
Yeah.
Both guests tonight, Jen and Chad, they both shared realness. Jen shared a little more realness than Chad.
Yeah, but
yeah,
great.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Wow, that was a great surprise.
Yeah, I knew it would be. She told me last night, and I was like, "You think John will like it?" I said, "Oh yeah, he'll like it." I mean, guy just won one of the biggest tournaments and beat some of the best, in the nation fishing. So yeah, hats off. A lot of hard work. That guiding's hard work. I mean, daylight to dark, getting prepped for it. I mean, that's a lot of hard work. Hats off.
And he thanked his family, his wife, because you as an angler, me as an angler, Jen as an angler. It's hard to go away from home if you don't have the support back home.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yep,
absolutely.
All right. So tomorrow we have a couple special guests on. John and Rob are going to be the guests tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about stories that we've encountered through co-angling.
Yep.
So everybody tune in at 8:00 and hear some of our crazy antics and stories.
Yeah, I'll say I've done about 100 tournaments now, and I've had some weird and crazy situations. I'm sure John has too. So it's always something. And if y'all got a crazy story, hey, chime in, and we'd love to share it with everybody.
Oh, definitely. So yeah, we'll even let you get on the stage.
Absolutely, y'all welcome.
All right, take care, everybody, and be safe.
Peace.